on this year. So that would be added in this year. So what something was worth 3, 4, 5 years ago might have been relevant at that time, and you might have had a different figure, but however, it's going to be relevant this year. Do we know, and the simple question is, have they done the 1 + 1 so that they come up and say that all our physical money that we have in the bank, it all adds up to where it's supposed to be? The other bits, the value of property, etc., can be sort of put to one side, because I said that's a matter of, in my mind, conjecture anyway, what people feel. One person to say might feel one thing. Because I can't see where the difficulty is getting to that figure. You've already done the work, you've already got the figures, and you've given them the figures, and basically all they've got to do is check them. And that is the bit. So have we got any idea exactly where they are with their final accounts, whether we have these figures which are correct, that you've given them, that they've checked, which should hopefully be the same as that you've given them, and if they are, then up to a point we should be trusting our own officers that they've done it correctly, and that is going to, for any better reason, be our start figure.
Same way that Thorough trust.
Because you know, at the end of the day, I believe external auditors was only brought in recently, wasn't it? I haven't been around that long, but didn't we do our own audits internally? Oh, there's always been. Sorry, I do apologise. But do we know whether they've actually done sort of the nut and bolt stuff, or that's still in the air, possibly?
As I understand it, they've done their normal audit work for 2021. They've just got this one point that's outstanding, and that's what the legal opinion relates to. And
so
we'll give an update. So hopefully there'll be an update to next
How
committee.
far are they towards 22 then? Because, you know, once nothing...
So as I believe... Go on.
Sorry.
For the subsequent years, there's been, as Tina said, a very light touch audit, but that is very much casting, checking opening balances, but there's been no thorough audit work.
Sorry, I'm turning my thing, but light touch or not, is there any variance in the figures that we have given them, or our account team, and what they think? So have they altered anything? Have they said, well, there's 100,000 missing here, 20,000 missing there, that's 10,000 too much there? Or are they happy that the nut and bolts accounts that they got, the 1 + 1 of all the different accounts, are correct?
For those subsequent years, they're going down the route of a disclaimed opinion based on the backstop date.
Which funding means that nobody's got a clue. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Brockman, you have a...
Yeah, sorry, I've just had a text to say that the YouTube broadcast isn't working.
Thank you, Chair.
Yep, Councillor Hadley.
Yeah, I'd already alluded to the work stream that's being carried out by officers on the finance team. Can officers confirm how many other officer groups there are and what their work streams are? Because they all have a financial implication. You'd be aware that the Chief Executive's on one of them.
Gina, is that something you're able to answer?
Is that the list of all the working groups that we're involved in terms of local government reorganisation? I know some of them, but I wouldn't like to say with any confidence, so we'll make sure we get that to you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the agenda that we're here to discuss? The draft annual financial report. Anybody got any questions on the financial report? No. Well, I've got a few, so I'll crack on. So on page 42, give everyone a minute to get there. The second pie chart, we I know we've spoken about this in the before with officers, but it's a little bit confusing to me that there's economically active, there's in employment, and then there's self-employed and employees who both add up to the in employment. And there's nothing on how many people are economically inactive to sort of put against that. But it's just I think it's a quite a confusing pie chart. I don't know if there's any sort of easy way to explain it.
So I think based on our conversational question earlier, yes, we've picked up there's an error. It's been added together, so we'll update that for the updated accounts.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's useful. And then what else we got on page 43? Not a question, more of a statement. It talks about high skilled and low skilled jobs. It's just a little thing that I never like the word low skilled job, because the things that some of them do is far beyond my abilities. So if there's a better word that we can put in instead of low skilled, that would be a good thing in my opinion. Pages 44 to 45. This is another thing that we spoke about earlier on top of page 45. The pie chart says other public sector. I was just wondering what the definition of other public sector is, that's not local authority.
So the data in that pie chart is driven from government data, and other public sector dwellings is defined as something that's not owned by a lower tier authority. So that could include things like might be owned by a government department or another public sector agency, for example, NHS or the prison service. So it's grouped under that umbrella.
Okay, thank you. Just a few more that I've written down. On page 46, the table on page 46 uses the old wards. I can see Vange there and Whitford Castledon. Is there a reason why? Do we just not have the data on it based on the new wards yet?
We'll check that out, but this is based on the financial year for 24-25. But we'll follow up and
yeah, thank you, because these wards stopped being the wards in May 2024, so the majority of that financial year would have been under the new wards rather than the old ones. But it's just something that I noticed that Vange and Whitford Castledon were in there. And then page 51 is the other one where I noticed, again, it's just a comment more than a question, but when you first look at the graph on page 51 with the average hourly pay rates, at a glance you would think that men get paid 3 or 4 times more than women. It's only when you look closely at the figures that it becomes a lot more sort of obvious what it means. But I was wondering if we could make that graph a bit more representative of the actual figures rather than looking quite alarming.
yes, we'll look at that.
Thank you. Yeah, I did. When I was going through the agenda earlier, I did think, bloody hell, how much? But no, thankfully it's something that hopefully we can make it look a bit more representative. But yeah, they're the sort of questions that I've got on sort of the nuts and bolts of the agenda. Has anybody else got any questions on the agenda? Yeah, Councillor Brockman.
Yeah, judging but this one on page 46, the life expectancy in Pasildon, I must be on my way out soon. That's just an observation, but there you go.
You've got plenty more years on this committee yet, Councillor.
I aim to wind you up.
Anybody else on this item? Yeah, Councillor Headley.
On the risk section on page 55, second paragraph. Where is it? It says there's 18, sorry, it's the third paragraph. 18 corporate risk, which, if they occurred, would have a major impact on the organisation. Can you give us half a dozen examples of those 18?
One of them I do know, because that's around maintaining a financially sustainable position. There's things like monitoring our commercial property base, for example, looking at our housing system, etc. Sorry, did you hear that? So one is around financially sustainable position. So that's something we monitor on a regular basis, which is why we've got in place financial reporting. I haven't got the list of 18 to hand, but I can share them. But we normally pick up risks as part of this committee.
So the expenditure control panel that was introduced, as I understand it, that's a method of examining any expenditure and deciding on whether it's necessary or appropriate. I'm not sure how that panel works. I know it exists, and on a couple of occasions I've been told if I've raised a residence issue, if it looks like it's going to cost something, then I've been asked to wait till the expenditure control panel has a look at it. So we've got a new portal coming out, and I don't know what. So maybe that'll be explained on there. But I am concerned that the report is saying there's 18 corporate risks, and the wording here is would have a major impact on the organisation or delivery of its vision. I'm not sure what its vision is personally, but when we start using words like including cross-cutting risks, the verbiage that's around this is kind of like a camouflage. I'd rather have a table of, rag table of the risks. Is there one in here, a rag table? Red, amber, green. Red is like desperate. Sorry,
there is one further down the agenda. I can't remember exactly where, but I'm not sure if it's to do with the risks or something else.
Well, it's not imperative that you answer now, but if you could send me a rag table of those 18 risks and what they are, that would probably help us formulate a question that is more appropriate than trying to just say, well, what are they? With any risk, it depends on what the appetite is for the 151 officer, the finance director, the chief executive, and the leader of the council and his cabinet. Assuming they're all on the same page with the risk, that's fine. If you're taking a calculated risk, then explain why you've taken that risk. But the previous administration was being given different advice on finance to the obvious advice that's coming forward now, which is a major concern. Because part of the job of the finance team is to not only look backwards at the year and the balance and the expenditure and income, but to project forwards on that trajectory on how the finances are going. You do that, yeah. So at some point, if the expenditure is going faster than the income and the gap is getting wider, we'd like to know how you're going to bridge that. Conversely, if the income is exceeding the expenditure, then it offers the opportunity for a discount in the council tax. So, I've not seen those graphs, I've not seen those projections. I do see them at other places, and it would be nice if they were transparently produced for this council.
I'll just come back on a couple of points there. In terms of your risks, risks are regularly reviewed and we talk about them, and we do a formal quarterly review of risks. And when we set out that risk, we also look at mitigations and we monitor those, and they're regularly updated. In terms of the financial position, we look at that on a monthly basis, and also we look at the impact in future years, that what's going on in the current year and how that might impact. We'll make sure that that's picked up, and when we start to do our reporting on the budget setting for 26-27.
Thank you for that answer, because I think it's imperative that we know what the future might look like, and certainly that would either encourage further investment in borrowing or discourage it, depending on those. The predictive nature of finance is difficult at the best of times, but given that inflation is up to 3.8% again today, just the inflation in pension contributions, wage inflation, and going back to LGR, there's going to be a massive reorganisation of officers' jobs. A lot of officers will probably, I can't predict the future any better than you can, but I suspect that there will be a lot of early retirements. People that are within 12, 18 months of retirement might decide this is a good time to go, and there's going to be ramifications on that, because there will be costs on allowing that to happen. So that predictive nature of finance is equally important as the backward look.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that was more of a statement than a question. I don't know if you'd like to come back.
I'll just come back. When we do set a budget, we'll be on a set of assumptions that we know at the time, but we also try and be visible about the financial risks that we're facing.
Thank you. Have we got any more questions on this side? No, we all done. Okay. Well, that was the draft annual financial report, and that was for noting. So thank you very much. Now on to item 5, which is the capital and investment strategy, starting on page. Find it in a sec. Page 157. Tina, would you like to, or Kai? Yeah, whoever would like to introduce.
I'll just briefly introduce it. So it sets out the overview of the Treasury management activity during the first quarter of this year. It outlines the performance of borrowing and investment operations and the compliance with prudential indicators. And the Council's overall debt position is in line with the approved strategy. And I'll hand over to Cal.
Okay. Just a quick overview. Just to highlight that this is Q1 in line with the capital investment strategy that was approved by Council back in February. It does set a framework for officers to work in, and it's primarily dealing with the management of the Council's debt and day-to-day cash flow. All activities to date.
Can you just,
Oh,
sorry, officer, can you just hang on?
Sorry.
Our Wi-Fi has been disconnected for some reason. So I can't see.
Okay.
You can't get in the office, that's what.
Okay.
I don't know if yours is still.
Mine's working fine, but happy to give you a minute to get it back up before we go. Yeah, mine's working fine.
Yeah, so's mine.
Yeah. But if just for in terms of getting the meeting going, if you're happy to carry on, if it comes back on, then you can catch up on the agenda. Cal, if you'd like to carry on.
I was just observing, in terms of the activities to date, they have been in line with the strategy. More looking at the enclosure 1, the main points to bring to the committee's attention. The capital budget has increased since the approved budget back in February. The budget has increased in line with the town centre asset purchase as well as capital carry forwards from 24-25. The report is showing a 21 million underspend at Q1, and that's mainly due to the timing of invoices. Generally, many invoices come a bit later on in the year, and hence why there's a significant underspend at this point. An update will be provided for Q2. The net debt has increased by 8.2 million compared to the beginning of the year, and gross debt is sitting at 683.8 million, which is a reduction to what the debt was at the beginning of the year, which was 690.6 million. In the first quarter, there's been some new loans which have been with other local authorities, and there's been no new PWLB loans. Debt, as Tina had explained, is within the required levels, that being the CFR, the operational boundary and the authorised limit. The CFR is forecasted to be lower by 14 million compared to what it was presented to members in February. It now stands to be forecasted to be at 802.1 million. Investments compared to the beginning of the year have dropped by 15 million, and to date investments have generated a 348k income compared to $500,000 budget, providing an average rate of 4.44. When that is purely for the investment for treasury management purposes. The report also includes an enclosure 2, which is a dashboard which more or less replicates the information in enclosure 1, and enclosure 3 is the performance indicators which show the actual and budget, which is required to be reported on a quarterly basis as per the Prudential Code.
Thank you, Cal. Do you have any questions on this item? Although, have we still not got access? No. Okay. Councillor Murphy, have you got any questions?
You said there was a £40 million underspend, or £40 million hadn't been spent, or
Carry
sorry.
forwards?
Was it £40 million hadn't been spent, or £40 million?
This
Right through the figures, I concentrated on the next one. There was £40 million mentioned underspend, or £40 million hadn't been spent, or why would £40 million be suddenly appear? That seems a lot of money.
Sorry, that might have, it was 21 million, sorry, is in the report as an underspend at Q1. And that's due to late invoices, last year's accruals appearing in the actuals, but a more realistic picture will emerge in the next quarter and so forth.
Takes 4 quarters to spend it.
Yeah, we discussed this last night over something else. I thought 40 million. I thought 40 million was mentioned that hadn't been spent, or there was. I must have misheard. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Have we not had any luck getting back on? Okay. Well, in that case, if you haven't got any other questions, we'll move on. Sorry that you lost the Wi-Fi. Not much I can do about that, unfortunately. Yeah, give it another try, Councillor.
They can have my one over there.
No. Your laptop.
Yeah. There's nothing private on it, is it?
Up to you. Okay, councillors, I'll give you a second to catch up. Yeah, it's page 157, councillors. Start of this item. Yeah, councillor Barnes.
Yeah, I mean, the question, just mentioning on the value of external investments, it's come down by 15 million. What's the why? Obviously, would be the first question on that. What's the reason for that reduction in the investment value?
At the end of last year, there was a few investment deals where which have now matured within the quarter one, and that's the main reason for these investments. So they've just come up to maturity in that first quarter.
And could you just talk a little bit more about the loans as well, please? So you mentioned that there were loans that the council was involved with. Are they loans that we've taken, or are they loans that we have made to other local authorities? It looks like they're loans that we've made to other local authorities. Is that correct?
In terms of the loans, at the moment we've got a short-term strategy in terms of temporary loans, which is with other local authorities. In this first quarter, there's been no PWLB loans, largely because long-term debt with PWLB is at a higher interest rate. So there's been more loans with other local authorities because it just offers a more preferred interest rate.
Councillor Barnes, you got a follow up?
So why are we borrowing that money then? Why are we borrowing? I think 16 million, isn't it? What's the purpose of that? Is that to cover shortfalls in revenue?
Yes, no, not revenue. Although borrowing can take place for revenue purposes, for short-term cash flow purposes, but generally the borrowing will be there to refinance previous borrowing or where there's been increase in capital, and therefore borrowing is for that purpose.
So just so this borrowing that I'm looking at here is not to cover sort of shortfalls in revenue. It's to cover, it's to basically consolidate existing debt. Is that broadly speaking accurate?
It is more for the capital purposes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members got any questions on this item? No. If we're happy, then that item was for noting. So thank you very much, everybody. We'll move on to the final item on this evening's agenda, which is on page 175, is the draft work programme. I'll give you a minute to go through. We've got quite a lot coming up, as you can see. I'll move my laptop so as well as you can see. Yeah, so the next meeting of this committee will be on the 15th of October and we've got 4 items ready for that: internal audit process report Q1, Q2, treasury management update Q2, annual governance statement action plan and assurance update, and corporate risk management update Q1 and Q2. Are there any comments on the work programme? No. Okay then. In that case, thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you at the next meeting on the 15th of October. Have a safe journey home.